Hi everyone. I wanted to make a video because I think there was some confusion about rotation, about the origin, or about a point. This is for our 7th grade math class and our 7th grade advanced math class and the 8th grade math class. So if anyone's kind of struggling with this, I know it's hard to try to get through the quizzes and not really know what you're doing. I wanted to lay this out. So in the comments below this video on my Facebook page, I'm going to make a copy of what you're looking at now so you can just download it. But these are the rotation rules for rotating about the origin counterclockwise. So all of these rules work if you're rotating counterclockwise. Well, what if we're rotating clockwise? Well, we'll see that all of them have an equivalent. So let's start out with 90 degrees counterclockwise. Now 90 degrees counterclockwise is the same as rotating something 270 degrees clockwise. All right, so think of like a graph here. If we're going 90 degrees counterclockwise from here, we're going to go here. That's the same as going 270 degrees clockwise because we would start here. This would be 90. This would be 180, this would be 170. So if you need to rotate coordinates clockwise, you just find the equivalent to counterclockwise. So let's see what that means. If we're rotating something 90 degrees counterclockwise, what we do is we switch our x and y coordinates and then we change the sign of the new x. So let's look at an example. Let's say we have 2, -4, and we need to rotate that 90 degrees counterclockwise about the origin. That becomes 4, 2. Why? Because first we switch our x and y, so that becomes -4, 2. But then we change the sign of the new x, so that negative becomes a positive. So our coordinates are 4, 2. Another way you might see this rule written, instead of these rules of switch x and y, then change sign of new x, you might see this written as this. X, y becomes -y, x. So let's look at 180 degrees. Now you'll notice I haven't written an equivalent over here, and that's because 180 degrees is the same in either direction. Think about it. We're starting here, we end up, We're starting here, we end up here, or we're starting here, we end up here. 180 degrees is the same in either direction. So our rule for that is we just change the sign of x and y. That's a pretty simple one. So for example, our -2, 4 becomes 2, -4. We made the negative into a positive, and we made the positive into a negative. That's it for that one. And another way you might see this rule written is x, y becomes -x, -y. Now if we're going 270 degrees counterclockwise, that's the same as 90 degrees clockwise. So our rule for that is we switch x and y, and then we change the sign of the new y. So for example, 2, 4 becomes 4, -2. Why? Because first we switch the x and the y, so this becomes 4, 2. But then we need to change the sign of this new y. So instead of +2, it becomes -2. And another way you might see this rule written is x, y becomes y, -x. So I want you to make sure that you have these rules on hand. You can pause this video if you need to go download them, or you can print it out or keep it up on another screen. This is something to keep handy for you. So I wanted to do an example about rotating something about the origin. Remember, those rules are all for rotating about the origin. So I'm going to try to write here as I'm recording. We'll see how that works out. So on the left over here, you see I've written my coordinates. I have J is -1, -2. V is 4, -1. And K is 2, -4. So we're going to make our prime coordinates for this. So our J prime, we're going to switch the X and the Y. But now, because we're rotating 90 degrees clockwise, that's the same as 270 degrees counterclockwise. So our rule for that is we've done the first one, 270 degrees counterclockwise. We've switched X and Y. Now we need to change the sign of the new Y. So our -1 becomes +1. So J prime is -2, +1. Let's look at V. First, we're going to switch the coordinates. And then we need to change the sign of the new Y. So this +4 becomes -4. And for K prime, we switch X and Y, and we change the sign of the new Y. So this +2 becomes -2. So now we just need to plot. So our J prime is now -2, +1. 1, 2, 1. So this is J prime. Our V prime is -1, -4. And our K prime is -4, -2. And then we just connect our points. And this is this shape rotated 90 degrees clockwise or 270 degrees counterclockwise about the origin. Remember, our origin is 0, 0. That's one example. Now, what happens if we're asked to rotate something about a point that is not the origin? That becomes a little bit trickier in that there's just some more steps. So we're going to go through that right now. So here we need to rotate this figure 90 degrees counterclockwise about point 1, 1. So here's this point 1, 1. I've drawn the point right there. And I've written out the coordinates for our triangle here. B is 2, -1, A is 5, -3, and D is 1, -4. What we're going to do with this point here that we're rotating about is we're going to pretend that this is its own axis. So we're going to draw our new X and Y axes so that we can figure out our new points. So if we look at this point B, here I have B star, A star, D star. These aren't really mathematically correct terms. This is just something to notate for myself of where these points lie in relation to this new axis. So this B, in relation to this point that we're rotating about, is 1, -2, right? Because here we have our new origin. We go to the right, +1, and then we go on the y-axis, -2. So our B star, we'll call it, is 1, -2. We'll do the same thing with A. For this, we're going 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 positive on the X, and 1, 2, 3, 4 negative on the Y. So our A star is 4, -4. And our D star, well, that's just on this y-axis. So our X coordinate is 0, and our Y coordinate is -5. Now we can, because we're using this as our new origin, we can go back to those rules that we saw before. So we're going 90 degrees counterclockwise. What do? We switch the x and the y, and we change the sign of the new x. So here we are, 90 degrees counterclockwise. Our new b for this, we'll call it b prime for now, is going to be -2, 1, but then we need to switch the sign of the new x, so this becomes +2. Our a prime becomes -4, 4, but we switch the sign of the new x, so this becomes +4. And our new d prime becomes -5, 0, but we switch the sign of this, so this becomes +5. So now we can plot that in relation to this. Remember, these points are in relation to this coordinate that we're rotating about. So in this case, it's 1, 1. So our b prime in relation to this is going to be 2 positive on the x-axis and 1 positive on the y-axis. Our a prime is going to be 4 positive and 4 positive. And our d prime is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positive. So then we connect. Now, if you wanted to find out the coordinates based on the actual plane, well, now we can either just count or we can subtract that 1, 1 from these coordinates. Just make sure that you can see my writing here. So our actual coordinates for b prime are 3, 2. And I'm sorry, we add the coordinates of the point that we're rotating about. So we can find that by either adding 1, 1 to these coordinates, or you can just count from your origin. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So our a prime coordinates are 5, 5, and our d prime coordinates are 6, 1. So let's go through and do some more examples. So here, this is just something that I got off of Teachers Pay Teachers. So this, we're going to rotate all of these around a certain point, all of these different shapes around different points, and that's going to put together a secret picture. All right, so if we look, we're going to rotate shape A 100 degrees about point A. So let me show you. Sorry, I'm not a YouTuber. I don't really have a great setup here. But here I've written down, so shape A, our coordinates are 5, 0, 3, 2, 5, 4, and 7, 2. Now, how did I figure that out? It's because we're rotating at about this point here, A. So our shape A is here. So we're going to use this as our new pretend axis, okay, which is good for this because this type of picture, it doesn't actually have an XY plane defined for you just because it's a practice paper. So here we figure out that this point A is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's on this axis here. So it's 5, 0. All right, so I've written out all the coordinates for that. So now we need to figure out, well, what are we doing here? We are rotating this one 180 degrees about point A. So what do? We change the sign of X and Y. 180 degrees, this is an easy one. So 5, 0 becomes -5, 0. And 0, that's like Switzerland, that's neutral. It doesn't really have a sign, so it doesn't matter. We don't need to switch anything. Our B coordinates become -3, -2. Our C coordinates become -5, -4. And D becomes -7, -2. So what we've done is, because these are all positive here, we've made them all negative here. So then we go and we plot these in relation to this plane that we've defined. So our A prime is going to be -5, 0. Right there. Our B prime is -3, -2. Our C prime is -5, -4. And our D prime is -7, -2. All right. And so this one, I'm going to color in kind of to keep the same colors that we got going on with the shapes that are defined here. So there is our first shape. So I'm going to check this off. So our shape B is our next one. I've written that down. Here's our coordinates for shape B. We want to rotate this 90 degrees clockwise about point B. Now 90 degrees clockwise is the same as 270 degrees counterclockwise. So what are our rules? We switch X and Y, and then we change the sign of the new Y. So we're going to find shape B here. That's right down here. And we're rotating this about point B. So again, on point B, we create this new pretend axis here, okay? Because we can only rotate things about the origin. That's what our rules work for. So our A prime, we have A for this one is at 3, -10. B is at 1, -12. C is 5, -12. So what do? First, we switch our X and our Y. And then we change the sign of the new Y. So this becomes -3. Do the same here. We switch our X and our Y. And we change the sign of the new Y. This becomes -1. We switch the X and the Y, and we change the sign of the new Y. So now we go back, and in relation to this, we're going to plot our new points. So -10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and -3, 1, 2, 3. Remember, we're making a secret picture, so some of these points might be on the same thing. So now we're going to go -12 and -1. -12 and -5. So now I'm going to connect these points to make my rotation of the B shape. So now for shape C, that's this one right here, this yellow one right here. For this one, we want to rotate it 90 degrees clockwise about point C. Remember, 90 degrees clockwise is the same as 270 degrees counterclockwise. So we go to our picture, we find point C. This is where we're going to create our new axis. This is what we need to rotate it about. So I've figured out the coordinates in relation to this axis. And here they are. So because we're going 90 degrees clockwise, we need to switch our X and our Y and then change the sign of the new Y. So this, we'd switch our X and our Y, and then we change the sign of our new Y. Now this is 0, so we don't need to change anything. So here we switch our X and our Y, and we change the sign of the new Y. So this -3 becomes +3. For C, we switch our X and our Y, and we change the sign of the new Y. So that -6 becomes +6. So now we just need to plot. I don't know if you can see them both. So in relation to C, we have 6, 0, 3, 3, and 6, 6. All right, and C was in yellow, so we're going to do that. We connect our points. So that shape is C prime rotated about this point C. So now we move on to shape D, which is this triangle up here. And we're going to rotate this about point D. So we make our new axis here. Now this one, we're going to rotate 90 degrees counterclockwise about point D. Now remember, our rules are given to us as counterclockwise, so we're all set. We just look at our rules for that. And the rules for that are to switch our X and our Y, and then to change the sign of the new X. So I've written down the points for this. Here they are. So here we go. For A, we're going to switch our X and our Y and change the sign of the new X. So this +6 becomes -6. For B, we switch our X and our Y and change the sign of the new X. So this +9 becomes -9. For C, we switch our X and our Y and we change the sign of the new X. So this is -9. So then we go back to our shape and we find our point D. Remember, this is where our new axis is. So we're going to plot our points. So our first one is -6, 1. Let's see if we can see these both in here. So our second point for B is -9, 4. And our third point for C is -9, -2. Oh, sorry, it was on the wrong axis. This is not, there it is right there. So now we complete that shape. For shape E, that's this triangle right here, we're going to rotate it about point E. So here we make our faux axis, and I've written down the coordinates in relation to that axis. So this one, we're going to rotate 90 degrees clockwise about point E, which is the same as 270 degrees counterclockwise. So we switch our X and our Y, and then we change the sign of the new Y. So for A, we switch our X and our Y, and we change the sign of the new Y. So this negative becomes a positive. We switch our X and our Y, and we change the sign of the Y. We switch our X and our Y, and we change our sign of the Y. So all those negatives became positives. So now we just need to plot in relation to this E point. So our A prime is going to be 7, 6. Our B prime is going to be 5, 8. And our C prime is 3, 6. So now we can fill in that shape. And that shape was kind of pinkish, so we're gonna make them match. So now we move on to our F shape, 2 more to go, guys. So our F shape is this one right up here, and we're going to rotate that about the F point. So again, we make our pretend axis here. And for this one, we're rotating 90 degrees counterclockwise about point F. So I've written down all the points in relation to this. Remember how we find them? We just count them in relation to this. So our rules for this: switch the X and the Y, and then change the sign of the new X. So here we go. Switch our X and our Y, change the sign of the new X. Switch our X and our Y, change the sign of the new X. Switch our X and our Y, change the sign of our new X. So then we need to plot them in relation to this point F. So here we go. A prime is -7, -6. B prime is -3, -6. And C prime is -5, -4. So here I have this. And our F was this kind of bluish color, so we're going to use that. And again, this is just a file that I downloaded. I bought off of Teachers Pay Teachers just to kind of have something interesting for us to do. So now we're looking at shape G. And for this one, let me point it out to you over here. Kind of hard to see, all the way over here. We're rotating it 90 degrees clockwise about point G, which is the same as 270 degrees counterclockwise. So here we have our point G. We're going to draw our pretend axis here, and we figure out the coordinates in relation to that. So let's just look at B. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, positive. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, negative. So I've written them all down here. See that B, how we found that. So because we're rotating 90 degrees clockwise, or 270 degrees counterclockwise, we switch our X and our Y, and then we change the sign of the new Y. So our A prime, we switch our X and our Y, and we change the sign of the new Y, so that becomes negative. We switch our X and our Y, and we change the sign of the new Y. We switch our X and our Y, and we change the sign of the new Y. Sorry, I jumped ahead there. We switch our X and our Y, we change the sign of the new Y. So now we just plot this in relation to this G axis. So our A, if you can see that, is -8, -5. Our B prime is -5, -5. Already there. C prime is -4, -6. And D prime is -7, -6. And this shape, this G shape, was kind of a reddish color. So we're going to make that shape here. So we've made a little bird, it looks like. Give it an eye. So I hope that helps understand rotating about the origin or about a point other than an origin. Again, take that paper that I showed right at the beginning and keep a copy of that for yourself. That is what's going to help you through all these, is just to be able to look at your rules. You'll soon memorize them. There's the paper, I was looking for it. You'll soon memorize them, but for right now, just keep them out and you'll be able to complete your homework pretty well. Reach out to me if you have any questions. I hope that helps. Bye.